Okay, welcome tonight to the Village Board of Trustees meeting, March 26, 2025. It is 6:01 p.m. Clerk Perillo, would you like to confirm the presence of a quorum?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Mayor Shepro?
Present.
Thank you. Trustee Giuliano?
Here.
Thank you. Trustee Hill?
Here.
Thank you. Trustee Laux?
Present.
Thank you. Trustee Ugrinsky?
Present.
Thank you. With that, we of course have a quorum. I'd like to note that Attorney Moran and Treasurer Gafka are with us as well.
Thank you. All right, will everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Clerk Perillo. I see there is an announcement on the agenda.
Yes, Mayor, we are hosting an East Beach Bluff informational forum tomorrow evening, the 27th, at 6 o'clock p.m. at the Village Center.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That meeting was noticed publicly, correct?
Yes, Mayor.
It's on Facebook. It went out through our Constant Contact Awareness campaign, et cetera, et cetera.
The
So
newspaper, the Village website.
all are invited to attend. We also now would like to introduce our new inspector of the 6th Precinct, Paul Mamet, who is also the commanding officer of that precinct. Welcome, Inspector Mamet. Thank you for being here. I think you have a...
Unknown caller.
Thank you, Mayor. Hello, everybody.
Sorry.
My name is Paul Mamet. I'm the new inspector of the 6th Precinct, the commanding officer of the 6th Precinct. I just started this month in the 6th Precinct on March 3rd. I'm very happy to be here, very excited to be here. Very impressed with everything I've seen so far in the 6th Precinct. It's really a good group of supervisors, cops, and detectives. A little bit about myself. While I'm new to this precinct, I've worked in a lot of different units throughout the department. I've worked in the patrol division, the detective division. I recently came from Marine Bureau. I've worked at headquarters. So I'm familiar with everything that goes on in the precinct. But I'm very happy to be here, and thank you for hosting me.
We're grateful for you being here. We'd like to also invite Officer Barry up, maybe to give report, and then we'll see if the community would like to ask some questions of the 6th Precinct representatives.
Hi, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Officer Casey Berry. I'm a co-op officer in the 6th Precinct. And what we do every month for you is we provide our crime stats. And what that means is I'm telling you a little bit about what's occurred for you guys here in the village with respect to criminal matters from the period of February 26th to March 26th. And I'm going to compare it to last year. Okay, so last year, for your total calls for service, that's all inclusive, you had 329 calls as compared to 289 this year. Oftentimes what I'll do is I'll delineate for you like certain crimes that have occurred within your village, and the only one that stands out is one larceny. In terms of the ones that we typically go through, larceny is obviously when somebody's property is stolen, and what that was a bicycle at the train station, and that investigation is still pending. We also have 10 other criminal matters that occurred. Most of them were domestic in nature. Domestic meaning it was a partnership, relationship, mother, father. And what I mean about that is like basically one of them was like a harassment. Harassment's where somebody maybe slaps or kicks or hurts somebody or pushes them. And again, this was domestic in nature. Something else, one of the other things that occurred that I'm sure many of you are aware of is reckless endangerment that occurred at 22 Midland. I will defer to the inspector if you want to touch base on that, or if you want me to. That's one of our criminal matters that is still currently under investigation. What happened was there were some shots fired at this location. We responded, nobody was hurt. Again, it is still under investigation. We don't have anybody in custody. So we can't really speak to that right now, but it's not something obviously that we would ignore. We wanted to let you know that we are enhancing our patrols there. We've spoken about this, Mayor. And we are obviously active in the community as we always are. And as for other criminal matters, there's really nothing else to report in terms of what's occurred criminally, non-criminal incidents. You have 304 calls service last year and 275 this year. And that includes like your aided cases, which are medical calls. Medical last year, you had 97, 65 this year. You had no overdoses, which is always a nice thing to report. In terms of crime stats, that's all I have to report. Community meetings and community events, something important for you to know is at our precinct, we host our 6th Precinct Community Meeting on the second Tuesday of every month. Our next one is going to be Tuesday, April 8th at 10 a.m. And that's where our inspector will go over everything that occurs within the precinct through all hamlets in our community. So at this time, if you guys have any concerns or questions for us within your village, feel free to let us know. Okay.
No questions.
All right. That's always a good thing. I guess.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We welcome to Port Jefferson, 6th Precinct, but more importantly, Port Jefferson. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, now we are going into the portion of the public, hold on a second, Jeff, the public safety and welfare update from our code enforcement team. Supervisor Cooper and Assistant Supervisor Flamia are here to provide an update as well.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Board, for having us again. We had a really good month. We've been out meeting a lot of the business owners in the downtown area and up on Main Street. We continue to monitor any code complaints. We had a couple of clearing complaints that we adjudicated. No tickets issued. We are proactively writing parking tickets at our problematic areas, the meters, and mostly Main Street and off of East and West Broadway. We have already doubled our parking tickets from what we did last March, and the month's not over yet. So my people are out there working hard, and they should be more visible. I've seen them up and down Main Street walking, which I think is a big improvement from the last few months. So we are out there. We had a couple of problems at the golf course that I'm addressing, and beyond that, everything's rolling pretty smooth with code. We have a couple of events coming up that we're planning, the Easter Parade, and a couple other things. The meters will go in effect on April 16th, all days, Monday through Sunday. And after April 1st, the resident parking, we will be enforcing resident parking stickers. So, not stickers, just permits. Yeah.
Thank you. Would you mind going into a little bit, elaborating a little bit on what's going on up at the country club?
Oh, the country club, yeah, we have a problem with juvenile youths going on to the country club with their electric bikes and going into the bunkers and tearing up the bunkers, which causes some damage, and they have to be repaired by the golf course personnel, and they're ripping up some of the greens. So just some of the parents out there, if your child has an electric bike, an e-bike, just please let them know they cannot be on the golf course and cause damage. You know, if we do find them on the golf course, you know, we will be in touch with the parents. It's not tolerated, and it just causes the village more expense that we don't need. So.
Thank you. Any questions for Supervisor Cooper before we invite Assistant Supervisor Flamia up? Okay.
Okay. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Anthony Flamia. I just want to welcome and thank you for all being here. I just want to say a special thank you to the village board and trustees for their ongoing support and collaboration. I have an event that I'd like to announce. It's I also like to huge shout out to Francine and Renee at the Village Center for their incredible work in developing this flyer for our prom dress donation event. The Code Enforcement Department, we put together this event, and in partnership with the village, and hosting a prom dress donation drive to help students in finding the perfect outfit for their prom, for all the upcoming proms. We're calling this event the Code Cares. We encourage the community to donate gently used prom dresses and accessories, shoes, jewelry, and handbags. And these donations will be available for students to try on and take home completely free of charge. Anyone can drop off their donations at the Village Center. Donations are accepted 7 days a week from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. The final day to donate is March 25th. That's Friday. The try-on events will be Saturday, April 26th from 11 to 2 in the Skipjack Room, and on Sunday, April 27th from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. at the Harbor Cove Room. I want to bring the community together and help these students shine on this special night. Thank you for your support.
Sylvia, Clerk Prillo, would you like to add to that, as your collaboration with Code has been very significant on this event?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I wanted to point out that the assistant supervisor has done really yeoman's work, along with his family, of putting this event together. We thank him for that, as well as the Rotary, Civic Association, and the Chamber, all partnering with us to help get the word out. And the last day for donations is the 25th of April.
Yep.
April.
Yeah. Plenty of time,
Yep.
right? When do we start accepting donations?
Right now.
Right now. You got
Immediately?
dresses, empty your closets.
I see there are a lot of people running to get those dresses right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, thank you. Next up is our, the time of the meeting where the public has an opportunity to address the Board of Trustees. So if there's anyone in the audience that would like to address the Board of Trustees, please come up to the microphone and have at it.
Good evening. My name is Matthew Franco, 5 Avon Drive, Port Jefferson, New York, 11777. I actually don't want to be here today. What I have to talk about is distressing to my family. And it's hard because I don't know how this puts me in a light, but I've sat down with my family and my priest, and we've really come to a difficult decision that I have to present this information because it's just not right. And some point time, right, it has to succeed. The mayor had a meeting on about March 7th with a resident of this community. And that resident came to that meeting anticipating discussing the bluff or potentially the golf course or the Board of Governors. During this meeting and that conversation as it was going on, the mayor stopped the meeting and said to this patient, therapist, said to this resident, I have something on Matt Franco I haven't used yet. Now, this resident was appalled. The mayor then proceeded to slander and defame my son and myself as grifters who manipulated the golf course and tried to get free rounds at the golf course. Just to let you know, I have all of the text communications and the receipts. Everything that I've ever done at the golf course has been paid in full. And I just found this so offensive that you would involve my children in this. And it was amazing to me that you used the word yet. And I said to myself, I declared that I was going to run for trustee after Trustee Laux announced that he was going to retire because I thought that I can do good things for the village. And I wanted to help. I wanted to put my hat in the ring and try and sit on that dais one day and work collectively with everyone there to try and do positive things for the village. But to have the mayor in her office, in this very building, with this resident, make an implied threat to a declared candidate for trustee is absolutely unacceptable. It's a violation of her oath of office. It's abuse of power. And as a declared candidate, it's election interference and intimidation. Fortunately for me, it's not going to, you can't intimidate me. And if you want to tell everyone today, you have an audience today, what yet means, tell everyone. I'm here. You can hit the button on your microphone and tell everybody what you said to that resident in this community. And my son and I have rights to privacy. Let's say what the mayor manipulated and said, because she's a media expertise, that's her skill set. We have a right to privacy. And the mayor cannot, in her office, in this building, tell a resident mistruths and fallacies about my children and me. It's unacceptable. It is absolutely deplorable. Now, I understand why she did it. I get it. I have stopped with some residents in this community actions she wanted to push forward on the golf course. I've, fading out junior members, we stopped it, myself and several residents. Putting initiation fee on residents to join the golf course, we stopped that. When we discovered that there was miscalculations and money calculations off at the golf course, I presented this information. So I understand she wants to tarnish me, but to use my son and to use this incident, which is absolutely ridiculous, it's a nothing, is unacceptable. So today, what I'm asking Trustee Hill, Trustee Urginski, Trustee Laux, and Deputy Mayor Giuliano is for a full investigation into the mayor for abuse of power and a violation of her oath of office. My family and my son have rights in this community not to be attacked by the sitting mayor. Could you imagine this resident? It wasn't like she was talking on the street. She was here as the sitting mayor having this conversation in her office in this building. That's unacceptable. We as a community deserve better. My family deserves better. People who voted for you, Mayor, and who didn't vote for you, Mayor, deserve better. Dignity, professionalism, class should be sitting in that chair and represent our community in that manner, not pretending and putting false innuendos and threats against a declared candidate for trustee. So again, I'll offer you an opportunity to say what yet was. I haven't used it yet. You have an opportunity. The cameras are on. You have a pretty decent audience here. Say it. I'm okay. I'm comfortable with everything I've done, but I'm not comfortable with your actions in this instance. It's unacceptable. So, Bob, I would like to have a meeting in the next few days. If you want to have Attorney Moran at that meeting, because my attorney will be present. If you want to have a teleconference, that's fine. Because we need to start a serious look into this matter because it's unacceptable. Because this has happened before. There was a resident in this community that was so threatened by the mayor that she actually filed a complaint with the Suffolk County, let me get it right, District Attorney's Office, Public Corruption Bureau. That's an interesting read. Now, again, I'm not going to defame or slander the mayor. The violations and the complaints did not rise to a level of a charge. But it was a very interesting read, how people can use the power that they have in office to intimidate the community. And the reason I'm speaking today, my son and I ultimately are going to move past this situation, right? It's about the next person that comes forward that doesn't have the confidence to step up here and ask for your help, that the mayor intimidates and uses her office to impede their ability to run for office, to step up and want to do good things for the village. So I appeal to you today, and again, I apologize. I didn't want to be here today talking about this, but I've sat down and I've really had a long thought about it for weeks. And I said, I have to, after a while. And the mayor, honestly, the mayor has rights. She has a right to defend herself against his actions. I absolutely believe that. That's why I think an investigation is imperative. Before before we start to vote, because I think the community should know whether I am dishonest or the mayor did what she did.
As you stated, Mr. Franco, could we just refer to those accusations as alleged actions?
Correct, they're absolutely alleged, and I said the mayor
You
has-
didn't say alleged yet, so I just want to make sure.
I'll say alleged actions.
Thank you.
Okay, alleged actions, thank you for the correction. And that's why the mayor has the right to defend herself against these alleged allegations. And the voters of this community have the right to know if what I'm saying is accurate or not. And they should hold me accountable if it's not, and hold the mayor accountable if it is. I'm willing to put my name in that hat and have this investigation. I won't turn away from it. So I think this board, and I Trustee Hill, Trustee Yorginski, Trustee Laux, and Trustee Giuliano, we've spoken before. I'm a pretty straightforward guy. I try and my motivations is really what's good for the village and what's good for the people in the community. I think that sullying this office, this building, and the mayor's position is unacceptable.
Allegedly sullying.
Allegedly. Again, thank you for the allegedly. If I say something, I mean allegedly in front of it. But that being said, we really need to do an investigation, and I hope that, Bob, I'll hear from you as the deputy mayor within the next few days to make a decision whether or not we're going to go forward with something, because this is not right. My son and I should not be slandered and defamed by this mayor because I decided to run for trustee, and with the help of several people in this community,
Allegedly slandered and defamed.
Allegedly slandered and defamed.
For your own protection as well, sir.
I agree. Allegedly slandered and defamed. We deserve to know what happened here. We should know, like, did the mayor allegedly solicit this information? Was the information brought to her? Did she do any research to verify whether this information was accurate? I sat next to the mayor in the erosion committee meeting, offered her a mint. She could have easily asked me, Matt, this is what I heard. But instead, she brought someone here. She set the time of the meeting, she set the location, and allegedly made these allegations of us misusing the golf course. Because again, she wants to try and tarnish me because I have presented, allegedly wants to tarnish me because I have presented information that is in an opposing position of the mayor in some instances. So, listen, thank you for your help in this instance. I really appreciate it, and hopefully I hear from you in the next few days, Bob. Thank you.
Mr. Franco, in furtherance of that request,
Yes.
I think you said a lot without saying much in reference to the complaint, where it came from, what was said, and I think if the board's inclined to pursue any of your requests, I would put that request in writing with actual allegations, and so we're not, right now it's a needle in a haystack because I'm sure the mayor had more than 20 meetings in the last 2 weeks.
It was on March, it was
And
on-
you don't have to tell it in public for everyone's protection, including
Understood.
your own and the person who allegedly was in the meeting. But if you put it in writing to the village clerk to circulate to the board, it's probably your best,
my attorney's drafting that letter as we
Perfect.
speak.
even better.
The trustees, and if Clerk Perillo, I'll add you to that email chain when it gets sent out.
Thank you.
Yes, that's being put together. Thank you. Be well.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else?
Good evening, Myrna Gordon, Rustic Road. Just a question. One at the Bluff, you mentioned the Bluff meeting tomorrow. Are there going to be any types of votes that are going to be taken? I did see some numbers, and I was wondering if the trustees and the mayor were going to be voting on a particular resolution for the Bluff.
No,
They're not?
no.
Okay, all right.
It's an informational meeting.
That'll be tomorrow for the informational meeting?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Just
What I want-
clarify your question, please.
I'm not sure exactly what is going to be voted on for the Bluff, if indeed it's going to happen. So that's what
Tomorrow night?
Tomorrow night, or
Nothing.
even,
Yeah.
what about tonight?
No.
Anything tonight? No, okay, very good. All right, just a question.
There's a resolution on the agenda tonight related to engineering
Yeah.
these.
And that will be voted on tonight?
Yes.
Okay, is it something that we could know about so that we might be prepared for it before the meeting tomorrow evening?
This is public comment, so you can make your public comment. I'm not sure. Attorney Moran, if
So it's an engineering request?
it's on the agenda.
It's Resolution 14.
We'll have discussion.
If any of the trustees wish to discuss the resolution based on your request now about that particular resolution, procedurally, when that resolution comes up, you've heard here many times, because I know you're an active participant, any one of the trustees could say on the motion and begin that discussion topic, and usually one of the trustees or the mayor will give a synopsis of what the resolution is and why it's on the agenda, and
Right.
sure, that'll happen tonight.
Would there be a consideration to perhaps wait and discuss this tomorrow evening? Would that be an option?
I'll leave the board to make their decisions. I think this is a procedural resolution that needs to move forward in either instance, whether tomorrow night meeting happens or not, in order to protect the already significant investment of the village in the Bluff and the associated grants that we anticipate in reimbursement from FEMA. But I don't get to make that decision for the board.
Right.
But trust me, I think they all heard you.
Oh, well, okay. Okay. However, okay, I want to move on to something that I have noticed. I haven't been to a few of the meetings, recent board meetings here, and when I've been watching them, I've been noticing that people will get up to speak during the public comment section, and somehow there is a new rule that I was not aware of until only recently. And that has been that our trustees do not respond back to people during the public comment section. I've often heard it say that you don't want to make a comment. And yet, for so many years, all of us who have been here, we have actually wonderful conversations with each of you. I will say to Stan, what about this? And I will get a response back. Bob, I'll get a response back. Kyle, Zena, I've not had that opportunity. Even you, Lauren. So what has changed that has determined that when people make a public comment and ask a simple question that might only mean a yes or a no, okay, we are asked to now fill out a FOIL request. We are asked to make an appointment. This has happened. You check the videos. All right?
Just to clarify your
Yes.
point,
Where did
a FOIL request is a request for records, not you can't ask questions through a FOIL request. And if I understand your complaint, as I'm sure the board is, and it's been discussed frequently, the issue also becomes on the flip side when the not-so-easy question gets asked, and then the allegation is, well, you answer her question and not mine, and there's nefarious things that are associated with that. So for the board's protection, and instances where people take that microphone and may or may not make substantial allegations that aren't true and demand a response, and then the board's position is, well, I'm not going to respond to that, or I'm not going to answer that question because, one, you don't want to give a wrong answer in public that you're not prepared for, yourself included. You come uber prepared with certain questions based on whatever research you made or did in preparation. To ask the village or the trustees to respond on the spot would be irresponsible for them to do without doing the same research and background that you're doing preparation for your question. But as you complain that it used to be a very simple back and forth, there's also
No,
complaints.
I wasn't complaining.
No, what I'm saying, the complaint is,
Stating.
it used to be this way, but we've received complaints, the opposite being true, that you don't answer our questions at the meeting, or you answer only particular people's questions. So for the board's protection, the board can address anything that you're saying after public comment if they so choose, and they've been advised so. But to ask them to only answer easy questions, I don't think is fair to them or to the public that wants answers to maybe more significant questions.
That's a really good point, and I hope I can answer that. Okay, you are our elected politicians, and sometimes the buck stops where you're sitting. And if indeed there is a question that is difficult or something that you don't want to answer, I have often heard you say, "I'll get back to you," or "Let's continue the conversation." Only recently have I heard you say, "We will not be discussing this any further or make any statement during public comment section portions," okay? So my thing is that these are emotional times. We have 3 minutes to talk to our county legislators. We have 3 minutes to talk to our Brookhaven Town supervisors and trustees, okay? And we do have a good forum here, but I'm concerned about transparency. And every politician I know who runs for office uses the word transparency. You hear it time and time again. So I would hope that thinking about transparency, when a Barbara Sabatino comes up here and asks you a question about parking or something, sometimes you won't answer her because you say, "We can't answer that, Barbara, please make an appointment." And this has happened before because I've seen it on the videos, okay? I come to you, we know each other by first names, okay? This is the type of community we have. You can solve a question, you can solve the answer to certain questions, but to completely say that you're not going to engage in public comment because they don't want to pick and choose the area, you are experienced. These are very serious times that we're focusing on. People are emotional, and I have seen people get up here and speak about very important things, whether they're here or at the village center or something, and it can get testy. But believe me, getting testy in Port Jefferson is nothing compared to some of the things that are going on with our congressional delegates throughout the country. That is testy. We have been very polite. We have been very orderly. We ask questions because we want answers now. Not saying we can't speak with you. So that's my question to you, is that when you go into executive session, please know that you have done this, and that perhaps you need to reevaluate it when any of us come up and just ask you a very, very simple question. Please answer us. Please answer us. Thank you.
Let's keep that conversation going. Come and visit me any day, any hour. I'm in my office all day, every day.
And I know that. I know that from all of you who I feel the same way about. But I'm talking about here at the podium. Here at the podium, which is important. There's a video camera. Our newspaper people are here. Let's have that transparency going both ways. And if you can't answer a question, you just simply say, I really want to continue this conversation, and let's get together and make an appointment. Simple as that. Thank you.
Thank you. Barbara Sabatino.
Barbara Sabatino, 2 Westview Avenue. Since my name came up, I agree with Myrna 100%. What happens is, without this back and forth, it kind of puts you, the Board of Trustees, a little bit out of reach, and makes me a little sad. But I'm actually here to make a comment on the agenda. Under public hearing, it's in 3 paragraphs. And paragraph 1 is resolution to open the public hearing. Paragraph 2, resolution to close the public hearing. And resolution 3, resolution adopting the proposed local law, which gives the appearance that a decision has already been made. So is there a better word that we can use, rather than say resolution adopting the proposed local law? Is there a better word that can be used that doesn't give the appearance that a decision has already been made? My next thing is, I was going through the agenda, and under resolution number 14, which is a good example, it says, resolution approving task 2345, yada, yada, yada. No, now I gotta read it because I can't find it. Bear with me. Okay, maybe that wasn't the one. Where it says as in attached. and it may be Resolution 15, I apologize. And then there's no attachment. So it's just a little bit, not even frustrating, curious. So I just wanted to make that comment. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any legal, is there a legal perspective from Resolution 3 that is easily referenced tonight?
It's just procedure, Mayor, because if it's not on the agenda, then you have to do a procedure for add-on resolutions. It's just, and we've done, and this board, I know has done it in the past, that after a public hearing, tabled that resolution, but for procedural purposes, I mean, what people perceive as a predetermined outcome, I don't know how you fix that, so you leave it off, and someone might say, well, the predetermined outcome is you're not going to support it or vote for it. If you have a resolution, the public hearing, I believe the board wouldn't put that on the agenda unless its intent was to approve it after it has been vetted, either at a work session or whatever. I believe once it makes the agenda, the board's position is it's to be approved unless it's not. Right? And unless I'm misspeaking, and that's not what the board understands. It's been, in my experience, that if you have a public hearing, you put it on the agenda, otherwise you call it something different. In this instance, in reference to the tax cap, where it's very strictly time sensitive, or whether it's a code amendment or something else, the intent is of the board to put that on the agenda for approval unless something comes up that therefore it's not approved. And it doesn't make the agenda unless there's a consensus in our work session that this will be on the agenda moving forward. But again, someone's personal perception of the words, I don't know really how to answer that, except to say procedurally, the intent of the board when it makes the agenda is to adopt, and that's why the word is adopt. Unless you hear something at the public hearing, public comment, or something comes up in the meantime from the time work sessions happen till board meetings where that intent has changed in some fashion, or even after the public comment portion, public hearing portion, where either a trustee might raise some questions that might leave some further, and we have tabled those, and we have removed those subsequently. So I submit it's not I don't want to say someone's perception of something is wrong, but it's procedurally, it's correct. And if it makes the agenda, it is absolutely the board's intention to pass it at some point. And one particular trustee might have a different opinion, but it doesn't make the agenda, at least in my experience sitting with this board, unless there's a consensus that it will pass, unless something the public brings to our attention that we may or may not have known, which specifically has happened specifically in reference to the golf course and the changes that were recommended to this board by the proper committees that make these recommendations to the board about membership and fees. We vetted it in public. The intent was to pass it. We heard from the public. The board didn't pass it. So that's how the system's supposed to work.
So there are three options: passes, doesn't pass, or it's tabled. So it's not. Yes, it's not a fait accompli just because it's on the agenda.
The point I'm trying to make is if it made the agenda, the point I'm trying to make is if it made the agenda, there was a consensus of the board in vetting that it should be on the agenda for adoption, unless the public, then that's why we hear from the public.
Does it make sense, Counselor, to just isolate this as one that is specifically on the agenda with public comment assigned to it, because we will be having a discussion about it?
Legally, you have to have a public hearing prior to the adoption of a local law. So, I believe that's what she's talking about.
I'm just saying, I mean, the reason these are written as they are written is to prepare for either it being declined, tabled, or accepted, right?
Again, you don't put resolutions on the agenda for denial, right? So you wouldn't say, public hearing on this
Understood.
local law, and then the next resolution be, close the public hearing, and then the next resolution be to not pass it, because we move in the affirmative. So if it's on the agenda, it's, unless we hear differently from the public, or a trustee comes up with something in between, work session in this period, or there's a compelling argument on either way, resolution gets passed, tabled, or we fail, or we adjourn it, table it for, I believe there was one time where we left something open for a permissive, a referendum where you could write in, I forget what that was about. You had 30 days to write in, also public comment if you couldn't be there, so we tabled it to the next meeting. I believe that was it could have been the code enforcement issue, I don't really recall.
Yes.
On December 18th, we left it open till the next meeting. So
Correct.
there's a myriad of things that could happen with, but procedurally, it's on the agenda because the agenda is affirmative, not a negative.
I think the discussion itself on why this is on the agenda is going to be probably more important than the procedural discussion. So,
I think everything's important. Okay, any other public comment?
Bob Larrabee, 214 Maiden Lane, Port Jefferson. Although I am a member of the Citizens Commission on Erosion, I'm speaking tonight solely as a resident. Relating to Resolution 1432-625, I have briefly reviewed the professional service contract amendment submitted to the village on February 26, 2025 by GEI Consultants. Two items stood out in Task A2, Design Development. The first item, the document notes the development of decision-making documents throughout the design process. One would hope they are in reality decision-informing documents, and the village staff, trustees, and Citizens Commission on Erosion would have sufficient opportunity to review, comment, and have discussions on the depth, content, and recommendations contained within them prior to the decision to inclusion of any of the work into the project plans and specification. As to the budget for Task 5 coordination meetings, it is in an excess of $20,000 and would appear to be a reasonable request to include the CCE in at least some of the 6 scheduled village coordination meetings. In addition to GEI's evaluation of probable cost and schedule implications, it should also, given the failure of some of the Phase 1 components, include the likely time frame of success, as well as maintenance requirements and an estimate of the expected maintenance costs. The second item, a stormwater drain analysis shall be performed, to be based on a parcel watershed to convey stormwater from the bluff face to the upper wall. By the bluff face, I assume it includes the eastern and the western side of the parcel to the private property boundary noted to be researched and approximated in Task 1 survey, referring to parcel boundary lines. Given the history of events in this western area, perhaps an approximation is not sufficient. No mention has been made of whether the stormwater drainage analysis will result in a stormwater system design, and if the design elements, cost, and effectiveness will be evaluated and incorporated into the decision-making document. I can only assume and recommend they would at least be evaluated as part of the above-noted decision-informing/making process. One item stood out in Task A3, 4th bullet. The previous draft progress set of plans dated June 1, 2022 include an add-alt wall extension section for the western end of the wall. Is this type of bid option still under consideration? Thank you for the opportunity to comment. I also have another statement. I would like to support Chris Ryan and Mark Sternberg in their reappointment of the Drowned Meadow House staffing. That is Resolution 1732-625 and 1832-625. Thank you again for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Lowry, can you email those questions? Or I would like them, or sorry, the comments. I would imagine most folks on the board would like
I would
them,
like
but
that.
if you can email them, that would be helpful to me at least. Thank you.
Are you going to deliberate tonight?
Can you email them to the clerk? So,
Could we have our transcriber get him to us as soon as possible?
I don't know which is most efficient. Probably, Robert, would you mind giving that to the clerk and she can scan it and get it to the trustees? Any other comments?
Hello, Robert Grimm, 18 Pine Hill Road. I'm talking about the same thing everybody else has on this resolution, so I'm not going to repeat all that. But what I wanted to state was I read that, and I see it's having to do with the bluff moving forward and stuff, is that what I've not noticed in any agenda for the last 2 years is any resolution or research to provide other options for resolving the bluff some other way. Everything that's going like now is to move forward with phase one. It makes it clear to me that the current mayor and some of the board, I hope not, has never had any intentions of researching and presenting any alternatives to the village residents to vote on. Before this resolution comes up for a vote, I want to remind every member of the board that when they were running for election, they were asked at the meet and greet candidate nights if they supported a referendum before any money was spent on phase two. All of you said that you would not vote to spend any additional money on phase two without a vote to the people who elected you. Please remember this pledge before you cast your vote tonight and for any future money going forward for phase one without giving us the option of voting on or being presented with other options with costs so the public can make a decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Going once? All right, hearing none. What's up next, Clerk Prolo?
Thank you, Mayor. Next, we have a public hearing, and with that, we have a resolution to open the public hearing regarding a proposed local law to override the 2% tax cap as established in General Municipal Law, Section 3C, as it may be necessary to adopt a budget that requires a tax levy greater than the tax levy limit. May I have a motion to open that public hearing?
Motion?
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So, we talked about this last month, correct? This is a standard operating procedure, correct?
Yes.
Do you want to talk us through it, Treasurer Gafka?
Yes, pursuant to state law regarding the tax cap, in order to override the actual tax levy limit as prescribed through New York State Office of the State Comptroller, the board has to pass a local law each year, giving themselves the authority to then override the 2% cap and to raise more taxes than the state calculation would allow. This is a procedural issue. The village has passed this resolution each of the last 10 years, and it gives the board the authority to then override the tax levy limit if it needed to. It does not guarantee that that's going to happen. It gives the board the authority to do so.
And why is that something that the board should have authority to do? What if for some reason, the tax cap is breached, pierced, as it were, and we didn't have any control over it, what would happen?
If the board were not to vote to override the tax cap and pass a local law, and they did in fact breach the tax levy limit, there would be a penalty from the state where you would have to set aside the amount of that overage to lower your next following year's levy and not be able to raise taxes in that amount. And it could be detrimental to the future year's budget.
And under what circumstance might that even happen?
There could potentially be some emergency situation or something were to happen that they would need appropriations for in between the creation of a tentative, which may or may not have had the levy limit being overridden, to the point of adoption where then some circumstances have changed and they may need to then raise enough taxes to cover some potential expense.
And just for the record, how many times has our tax cap been pierced in the last 10 or so years?
8 times.
What about in the last 2 years?
It was not pierced last year. It was pierced for the 2023.
It was pierced in a budget that was prepared and adopted in April of 2023.
Correct.
For the fiscal year 24.
Correct.
That we inherited.
Correct.
Okay. So, any other questions from anyone else on the board?
I would actually like to take the opportunity to explain this in English for anyone that's interested.
What?
So, Mayor Gafka, are we currently presenting, Mayor, I just gave Let's try that again. Treasurer Gafka, we have just posted the tentative budget. Does it pierce the tax cap?
No.
Okay. Is it our intention at this moment to pierce the tax cap?
No.
Okay. From my perspective, the reason we're doing this is to ensure that should something happen between now and April 30th, when we finalize the budget, let's say there's a natural emergency that happens, okay, or, disaster. We would need to do an emergency appropriation of funds for the budget, and that could potentially require us to pierce the tax cap. So let's say nothing happens. Okay? If nothing happens, we don't pierce the tax cap. We stay within the boundaries we are legislatively assigned. Now, let's go back to the one, if we do have a disaster, how is the money spent? It means that we can raise the tax beyond the tax cap because we need those emergency funds. If we have not done this process, meaning given ourselves the authority to do it if we need to, then we will be hurting ourselves fiscally next year, because we will have to include that amount, and we will, in effect, be able to collect less taxes and could really hurt ourselves fiscally. So I just want to summarize and say this is not an indication that we intend to pierce the tax cap. The current budget does not expect that to occur. But if we do, for some emergency reason, then we hurt ourselves next year if we don't have this legislatively in place. And I'll just pause there. Have I misstated anything, Treasurer?
No, that's correct.
Someday, perhaps, Mayor? No. Of Greenport?
So, in even plainer language, it's like an insurance policy. It's good to have, but you hope you never need it.
Yes.
Those are the exact words I used with the treasurer in prior conversations. Yeah. Thank you, Bob.
Sure.
As your legal counsel, not to take this step, I'd be almost committing malpractice to say that you almost have to do this to protect yourselves from potential liability down the road and a significant tax implication. God forbid something happens and you're not prepared for it.
Is it possible to take a second bite at the apple if there is an emergency next year? Can we hold a hearing to raise the tax cap?
We don't set the tax cap.
Or
Taxes would
I
already have
understand
come
that.
in. Taxes would already have come in.
But we
at
couldn't
the
raise
agreed
taxes
to.
mid-year?
No.
No.
Not after your budget's done.
And I think that would be tremendously unpopular after working through the budget.
Right.
So then, how would an emergency impact taxes if you can't raise taxes mid-year?
I think what the treasurer said, and I don't want to speak for him, but I will. In the event that something happens by the time you have your tentative budget and your adopted budget, if there's an unforeseen cost that happens in that month or so period, month and a half period, or just in, like you said, we have the budget meetings are public, and let's say the public thumbs through it, and there's someone smarter than all of us who says, wait a second, what about this? And you realize that what that is a significant increase that's not contemplated for somewhere. you have the ability then to recalculate that and go over the tax cap if you so choose. Again, from your attorney's perspective, if you don't do this, I'm on record saying you should do this.
And
So
then-
just for clarity, if there's an earthquake in June and we've already adopted the budget for the next fiscal year and we have to repave every road in the village, we couldn't raise taxes to do
This-
that.
this only
regardless
applies
of whether,
to now.
regardless of whether the tax cap was
You're
voted.
talking
May I
about a
finish?
different situation
Trustee,
than we
may I
are now.
finish?
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Please continue.
So regardless of whatever emergency, the emergency has to happen in this very short window for it to be practical.
Yeah, once you adopt the budget, there is nothing that you can then do with taxes. And if you want to get away from just the expense side, let's say a projected revenue that you had, you're counting on a certain dollar amount for a certain revenue line, and then you get information that says you're not getting that anymore. Now you have a revenue shortfall to cover the expenses you've budgeted. So if you can't cut before the adoption of the budget, the only opportunity would be then to raise taxes. So it works both ways. It could be an expense or it could be a complete revenue shortfall that may fall in the lap.
Thank you.
So,
I think looking at next year's
let me just ask this question
budget.
before you assess this. So in the past, where the tax cap has been breached 8 times out of 10 or 9 times out of 10, why were they? Why was it? What caused the breach, the piercing of the tax cap?
It's hard.
I know I didn't ask you that question before this meeting, so I don't know if you have the answer off the top of your head, but.
No, I believe there's a couple, probably a couple reasons, and I can't obviously detail all of them, but at least one of them was a misunderstanding of the tax levy limit in terms of bid tax collection. When you collect bid taxes, that actually
Business Improvement
District, we collect their revenue source for the year through taxes against the Business Improvement District properties. That counts against your levy. That may or may not have been something fully understood. It's some of the numbers that look like when it was pierced, it tied into that number a little bit. But it's not exact, so why the exact amounts, I don't think I could answer that, but that is one potential reason.
So Treasurer, this pertains only to the next 30-plus days.
This local law would apply to this year's budget only.
Okay, and so if we were to have an event in June, there is an entirely different fiscal management process that we would go through to try to figure out how to address it, whether it's grants, whether it's, I don't know, state funds available given a disaster, right? Or whether it's cutting expenses further to be able to cover it. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, do we now, any other questions from the board? I know. All right, so we'll enter into the public comment section of the public hearing. We have any questions or comments? Oh. Come on, Barbara. We're all looking at you. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Yeah.
Really, this is all standard stuff, year after year that I've been here. It's just procedural, right?
Correct.
So this is all standard stuff. And when I've seen the tax caps pierced, it's usually health insurance and pensions. So there you go. Thank you.
So Treasurer Gafka, can you just talk to us a little bit about the accommodations that your office has made for the health insurance and pension planning process?
Yes, we received the rates, the new rates for the health insurance and pension plans. We get those ahead of time, usually in December of each year, which allows me enough time to calculate out the rest of the year, because that's an annual year. So you figure 7 months of one rate structure, and then we anticipate an increase. We always anticipate an increase. You always expect your health insurance costs are going to go up for the following 5 months, and then you just build that together. You try and anticipate that raise.
And what are we, how did you address that in this budget?
We took the current rates that are currently being paid that we know now, and then added an additional 12% for the following year to increase, and then factor that over 5 months and built them together. So 7 months.
So
of one
we
rate.
know there's going to be a 12% increase in health insurance and pension.
I budgeted 12%. Historically, it's between 8 and 10. But I like to be on the safe side because there was a couple years where that went way beyond 10. 12 is usually a pretty good number.
Okay. Okay. Any other public comment? Sir?
So before you speak, let's make the distinction between a public hearing and public comment before a meeting. The board is absolutely expected to address your concerns in a public hearing.
Oh, that's
And
what this is? Okay.
because they're prepared to discuss
Okay,
it,
okay,
as
thank you.
opposed to a random question
Thank
at the
you,
start of
okay.
a meeting that they might not be prepared to
Okay,
discuss.
I wasn't expecting an answer, but
Well,
I
now
just.
you might
okay.
get one.
I might get one. Okay, what? It's Robert Grimm, 18 Pine Hill. My question was, that I believe for the last 2 years, the mayor has voted against this. And with my concern with the bluff and all, I'm just very curious if that's going to happen again, because I'm really afraid that something's going to come, because they're going to try to push money through on taxes to break that cap for the bluff thing. So if you voted against it twice, I would assume you'd be voting it against, but the way you're talking about it, you're like promoting it, and that's what I'm very curious about.
So it's been my direction to the treasurer's office and my commitment not to pierce the tax cap. And everything that's been budgeted in this budget accommodates that. No surprises on the bluff whatsoever. No surprises will be coming out of any preparation of any scheduled expenditures on any projects that we have on the books this year, this coming year. Am I correct in saying that, Treasurer Gafka?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So does that mean you are voting for the resolution? Or for the,
You're getting ahead of yourself.
well, I think that was his
Trustee.
question.
Well, his question he'll have an answer to when the board votes. But this is the public hearing, so that was my answer to his question. Do you want to answer the question?
The question wasn't directed at me.
Okay, so that was my answer. I hope he seemed okay with that. Any other comments? Okay, do we have a motion to, is that, close the public hearing? Motion? Do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
Close the public portion of the meeting?
Public portion of the meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Laux, do we have a second?
Board can have a dialogue now on.
Okay,
We need a second.
Yeah, second.
all in favor or discussion? Want discussion? Okay, all in favor? All in favor of closing the public portion of the public hearing? All, motion carries. Your turn.
Thank you. At this point, we have a resolution to close the public hearing regarding a proposed local law to override the 2% tax cap as established in General Municipal Law, Section 3C. May I have a motion?
That was,
Close the public portion
Portion.
of the public hearing.
Now we're closing the public hearing.
The public comment.
Public portion of the public hearing, yes.
And now we're closing the public hearing. If I could have a motion?
Motion.
Thank you.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you. With that follows a resolution adopting the proposed local laws attached to override the 2% tax cap as established in General Municipal Law, Section 3C. Motion?
Motion.
All right. Any comment?
No, I don't like the way that's worded, because it gives the impression that you're piercing the tax cap. Adopting a resolution to local law attached to override the tax cap. Give the, if necessary, maybe you want to add, if possible, if required, that gives the impression that it's, I don't want to leave a false impression to the public or the board that they're voting to override the tax cap, because that's the way that's worded.
Would it be authorizing to?
If necessary, then yeah.
What do you recommend?
That.
If necessary?
If necessary. Do we need a motion to do that?
Yes?
Yeah.
Right, so I'll make the motion to amend the motion to add in if necessary,
Thank
The
you.
resolution, yeah.
the resolution.
Second?
All in favor of that?
Aye.
This is to amend the resolution, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Aye.
Yeah,
Okay.
as, no, adding that.
You want to do we need to redress the resolution now officially?
I didn't have it.
So now we have a resolution adopting the proposed local laws attached to override the 2% tax cap, if necessary, as established in General Municipal Law, Section 3C.
Motion?
Second.
All right, may we have a roll call vote on this, please?
Yes, Mayor.
But before we do that, just so, been a lot of discussion. So right now, the budget as drafted, the proposed budget does not pierce the tax cap.
Correct.
Thank you.
Trustee Laux?
I vote in the positive.
That's a yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Giuliano?
Aye.
Thank you. Trustee Ugrinsky?
Aye.
Thank you. Trustee Hill?
No.
That passes 3-1.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. With that, we move to our regular agenda with resolution number 32625. Resolution approving the attached minutes of the February 26th, 2025, March 12th, 2025, and March 17th, 2025 meetings of the Village of Port Jefferson Board of Trustees. May I have a motion?
Motion?
I'll second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution number 32625, resolution scheduling a public hearing for 6:00 PM on April 30th, 2025, at Port Jefferson Village Hall, 121 West Broadway, Port Jefferson, New York, 11777, regarding a proposed local law amending Chapter 245, Vehicles and Traffic, Section 56, Schedule 8, Stop Intersections of the Code of the Village of Port Jefferson, and amending Chapter 245, Section 4, Traffic Control Signals of the Code of the Village of Port Jefferson, and amending Schedule 1 of Section 245-49, Schedule 1 Traffic Control Signals of the Code of the Village of Port Jefferson. May I have a motion?
Motion?
Second.
Discussion. I just want to talk through the reasoning for this and what this is related to in terms of the locations of the traffic control signals. So this resolution is to remove is to authorize, or for a public hearing, to hear about the need to remove the traffic signal at Liberty and Old Post Road on the west side of the village, as it is now obsolete, and it's a three-way stop now with direct, as per stop signs. So the blinking light was a yellow and a red, and now it's not functional, and we're looking to remove that. The other aspect of this is to discuss the possibility and the interest in installing a traffic light at the intersection of Stony Hill Road and High Street, so that there is a yellow flash on the east-west on Stony Hill Road, and there is a red blink on the High Street. I guess that's north and south technically, so it's kind of, but as there has been some issues there with, quite a few issues, one of which is with our own Port Jefferson employees who were were T-boned in an accident at that intersection. So that's what this public hearing is about, and we also have to, I guess, talk about the actual stop signs at High Street there, which have never been codified. So we need to ratify that and have a public hearing to discuss that as well. So that's what that's all about. Okay? Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution number 32625, resolution approving the provision of translation services by independent contractor Sandra Ramos Connor for the required translation from English to Spanish of forms and documents related to the June 17th, 2025 village general election. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution number 32625, resolution appointing the following as election inspectors for the June 17th, 2025 village general election at a pay rate of $18 per hour. Leslie Chesley, Barbara Sabatino, Elaine Frida, Lisa Poulos, Constance Burns, Carolyn Saxteen, Randolph Russ, James Gray, Wayne Chesley, Konstantin Shestakov, Nancy Lustig, Arnold Lustig, Teresa Eberling, Veronica McGarry, Jenny DiNicola, and Frank DiNicola. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Resolution appointing the following as resolution number 32625. Resolution appointing the following as chairpersons of election inspectors for the June 17th, 2025 village general election at a pay rate of $19 per hour. Kevin Collins and Deborah Zomerfeld. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution number 32625. Resolution approving the request from the Port Jefferson Fire Department for village parking permits to active firefighters who reside outside of the village boundaries to help ensure an efficient and rapid response time for emergency situations. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution number 32625, resolution approving the recommendations of the Parking Committee per attached memo dated March 24th, 2025. May I have a motion?
Motion, but would like to discuss.
Second.
Okay.
One, thank you. I think the peak parking format is a great idea. So thank you to the parking committee and Mr. Luciano for putting that together. My only real concern on here is number 5. Since I've been on this board, I think we've gotten definitely 2, maybe 3 recommendations from the parking committee. And I think there can be a acknowledgement or intention not to amend the parking fees over the next 3 seasons, but I would prefer if we just didn't have that as part of the resolution, because the resolution reads approving the recommendations of this this memo. So if we can just scratch number 5, I'd happily vote for this. And again, really love the idea of peak parking.
Trustee Hill, procedurally, you could ask for a motion to amend the resolution removing recommendation number 5 and see if there's a second.
Okay. I'll do a motion to amend Resolution 7 to read, resolution approving the recommendations 1 through 4 of the Parking Committee per attached memo dated March 24, 2025.
So do we finish discussing what we've motioned to, and what we've had a motion and a second to discuss? And then go to the?
You could do that, sure.
Okay. So just in response, and I don't disagree with what you're saying, there's been really no commitment by the village to have a real kind of stabilized initiative, and if it's just changed every year, sometimes in the middle of the year, and it's just really hard to plan with that. And this is almost akin to a capital planning process. If we have, but is your concern that it will need to increase the rates, or that we'll need to decrease the rates, or what's your thinking on that?
No, just either. I mean, the peak parking is new, so we're trying that out. I mean, I think it's going to work, but I always appreciate looking at the monthly data of parking revenue, which is tremendously important for this village's budget. So I just wouldn't want to tie our own hands when we can do an acknowledgement that these are really good changes and we would like for them to stick around just without having it bound in writing.
In resolution, so that if we had to change it, we'd have to, if we wanted to change it, we'd have to have a resolution changing it anyway.
I agree. Yeah, I acknowledge that. I just think also protecting the board's own power and authority, I'm not inclined to limit us beyond what is in existing laws. But I think I am in favor of sticking with the plan that we have, but just not saying absolutely for sure,
All right,
definitely.
so I'll ask the treasurer, do you feel that if we remove number 5 from this, this resolution as presented, that it will give the parking committee and the treasurer's office the ability to plan to create you've been charged with creating a capital plan for parking, which I know that you're working on. Does changing this resolution to eliminate number 5 impact that ability to create a capital plan into the next 3 to 5 years?
No.
Okay.
It's a man of few words.
There's a minimum, you have to.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't affect my plan to plan out with what the rates are, as currently, as will be voted on.
Your capital planning is assuming assuming the increase as delineated in number 5. That would not, your assumption is that the rate will not change for the next 3 years, and you feel confident that if we do not codify it, if we do not ratify it, your capital planning will not be negatively impacted.
My intention is to budget as if that is the case,
Mhm.
and that these will be the rates for the next 3 years.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions?
Treasurer, if we take that out, and you've now budgeted against this plan, which I think was presented as something we haven't done before, so we're really sort of testing out what the financial implications are. Wouldn't it make sense to at least do it? I would be okay doing it for the current budget year, but was there actually, can we ask the person who submitted this letter to address the rationale for?
That's a question for the mayor, who's the chair of the meeting. Procedurally, you can, but that's not for me to decide.
Could we ask James to just elaborate on why?
Sure.
It was 3 years?
So, we were approached that the village is going to need more money to do projects in the village, and that parking is one of the main revenue sources of the village. When the parking committee was formed, we were told not to focus on revenue, as our goal was to focus on a parking management program that ran smoothly. That being said, we've done a lot of changes back and forth over the years. Stephen and I have had several discussions, and they approached us saying that they wanted to raise the parking fees $1 an hour across the board, 7 days a week. Now, we are also now charging for parking on the weekends all year round, which used to be free. You can't keep charging our customers more and more money every year and keep raising the rates and raising the rates and raising the rates. I mean, you're killing businesses down here. We want to meet you in the middle, but you have to meet us in the middle. You can't just keep taking and taking and taking. It's not right. I mean, we've forever had free parking all year during wintertime. from December to April. You now get the revenue on the weekends. You're now doubling the revenue on the weekends all year round. It's a win-win, but there has to be an agreement of how much money they're going to spend. Not to mention, none of that money has gone back to capital improvement other than the meters that were just purchased that the bid contributed $23,000 for. So you can't keep taking the money from the parking and not putting it back into the parking and using our customers to pay for it. Because the residents don't pay for parking.
So I just want to make the record clear that when you say our customers, you were invited to speak as the gentleman who represented the parking committee.
Correct.
So my understanding is the parking committee doesn't have customers. So
Patrons of the
I just
village.
want the record to clarify that this is the input that the parking committee received from the bid, and the conclusion of the input from the parking committee, because it's not just you, it's not just the bid.
Correct.
It's made up of members of the community who may not be members of the bid, who don't have customers.
Correct. We
So
have residents.
Again, just let me finish the thought, because I want it to be crystal clear, just to clarify your comments, that the recommendations of the committee is everything that you're saying, not necessarily you, the bid, or your customers. So I just want, because different hats, when we all wear them, so I just want to clarify.
Correct. So the committee has residents, we have business owners, we have residents that are business owners. It is a multiple thing. We also take feedback every month from the Business Improvement District as well as the Chamber of Commerce. When I say customers, again, it's patrons to the village. Residents in the village do not pay for parking. They are not part of the equation. They benefit from the patrons coming to the village, paying for the parking, which is funding a good portion of our budget as a community. But without those patrons coming into the village, and if you are constantly going to push those patrons out of the village, you're not going to get the revenue, and it's not going to support the businesses that are in the village.
And therefore, it was important to you guys to have a 3-year sort of window where it's consistent.
The issue is that it's changing every year, and the increases have been coming on a yearly basis. So it's not consistent, and it's, every time, you have to explain to a patron in the village, how much is the parking, on a $3 an hour range, if a family wants to come into the village and spend 3 hours in the village, it's going to be $9 now. I mean, it's a lot for people that are on a budget that just want to come to the farmer's market or just want to come to the park, and it's just a lot.
And Treasurer Gafka, we're trying to put a 3-year capital plan in place, and the shortest capital plan duration is 3 years, right? So, it feels to me as if those two things are in alignment. Is there any issue with taking this out in your mind?
I don't see any issue with taking it out. The only thing that I would add is, as somebody that's participated in the parking committee meetings, that it was really important to the parking committee to have the consistency as a show that we plan on being consistent with our messaging, consistent with our rates, consistent with our signs for a number of years, so that people could get used to, this is what the village is doing. If I go down to the village, I don't have to look and find what the rate is. I know what it is because it's consistent. That it was important to get that in there. From the treasurer's perspective, it doesn't change the way that I plan on budgeting the capital. It's just, this is something that was discussed at the parking committee as an important item.
I just want to also bring up that the idea of managed parking, when it began, was to manage the parking of the village. It's to ensure turnover for the village. It's not supposed to be this revenue-producing machine that it's become. That's never was the intentions. And if you scroll back to the original minutes of when that was adopted, that's what it was for. It was not for revenue purposes.
That's agreed. And also, I just want to make a point that the capital plan will not be obviously created in a vacuum, that the parking committee will be very much involved in the recommendation process of identifying the priorities of capital investment and capital improvement for the parking infrastructure. So
So now I'm confused, James. I have one more question. Didn't and unfortunately, we weren't able to have a parking committee meeting, so I wasn't able to ask this question when we were going to meet this week. But these recommendations were brought up by the parking committee as a whole, right?
Correct. We had a meeting last week. You weren't not in attendance, but we did have a meeting on Thursday last week. We were going to have a secondary meeting yesterday to get more people to join in, but again, the attendance was lower than it was.
So, but I'm getting the impression that you're against the $3, or you, or not you, but the parking committee.
The parking committee understands that there needs to be an increase in revenue, so we're willing to make adjustments, which is why we asked to lower the rate during the week to try and meet in the middle. You know, there's not so much demand for the parking on a Monday through Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
The demand is definitely there Friday through Sunday. And again, one of the main culprits of parking seems to be the employees of the village. You know, the employees of the village will take the closest spots. They're willing to pay $8 to park for the day. You know, the turnover is not there under those terms. On the weekends, when we really need the parking in the village, a $3 an hour times an 8-hour workday is $24. It's going to be a deterrent for employees to park in the paid parking spots.
Okay, thank you.
These are not the last challenges that the parking committee faces, that's for sure. So, Trustee Hill, do you still, are you still thinking you want to make a motion to alter this list?
Yeah, I think we can, handshake agreement to stick to this plan without having to put it in writing. And I think also, even if we do put it in writing, there can be a completely new board in a few weeks. So like that, they could change it too. So it's just, or all the same people could be here and we could still change it. So it doesn't, I think it's kind of language that doesn't really do all that much, but I think it would be a good idea for the board to protect its own authority and not include that.
We have a motion on the floor.
Do you want me to repeat the?
Please.
Yeah. Motion to amend Resolution 7 to read, resolution approving the recommendations of the Parking Committee, recommendations 1 through 4 of the Parking Committee per attached memo dated March 24, 2025.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Roll call vote, please.
What did he say?
Do you want to
I
discuss
didn't
this?
hear what he said.
Can you repeat the,
Motion to amend Resolution 7, resolution approving the recommendations 1 through 4 of the Parking Committee per attached memo dated March 24, 2025.
So approving 1 through 4.
so we have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Can we have a roll call vote, please? Clerk Perillo?
Trustee Laux?
Nay.
Trustee Giuliano?
Aye.
Trustee Ugrinsky?
Nay.
Trustee Hill?
Aye.
You're the tiebreak, Mayor.
Mayor?
Nay. Understand what you're trying to do, but I don't think my opinion is it doesn't impact the board's authority to do what it needs to do in the future. So,
Motion, we need to motion on the original resolution if that's the board's intent.
I think we just
It
need
is.
to call the vote, right? Because we motioned, they got a second.
And then we got
amended the motion,
discussion.
Then we
The clerk
discussed.
didn't have that written down,
Okay.
so.
okay, let's do that again then.
So
Resolution number 7.
Yes, resolution approving the recommendations of the Parking Committee per attached memo dated March 24th, 2025. May I have a motion?
motion.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, motion carries.
Resolution number 8-32625, resolution authorizing the attendance of Mayor Lauren Shepro at the New York Conference of Mayors Annual Meeting and Training School from May 28th, 2025 through May 30th, 2025, in Bolton Landing, New York, at a reimbursable conference cost of $325, and with all travel, meal, and mileage expenses to be paid in accordance with the official Village of Port Jefferson travel policy. May I have a motion?
Motion?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution number 9, 32625, resolution approving the event permit application submitted by Angeline Judex on behalf of the Long Island Explorium for the use of specified portions of the Port Jefferson Village Center and specified portions of Harborfront Park and the corresponding parking area from 10 o'clock a.m. through 5 o'clock p.m. on June 7th, 2025 for the annual Maker Fair. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution number 10, 32625, resolution approving the attached engagement letter submitted by independent audit firm R.S. Abrams to perform the annual audit for fiscal year 2024-2025, and authorizing Mayor Shepro and Treasurer Gafka to execute the engagement letter. May I have a motion?
Motion?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution number 11, 32625, resolution approving the attached intermunicipal agreement between the Village of Port Jefferson and the Town of Brookhaven regarding the transfer and disposal of street sweepings by the Village of Port Jefferson to facilities located in the Town of Brookhaven. May I have a motion?
Motion?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution number 12, 32625, resolution approving the attached agreement between the Village of Port Jefferson and the Times Beacon Record News Media regarding the publication of specified print media. May I have a motion?
Motion?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution number 13, 32625, resolution approving a temporary license agreement between Winters Brothers Hauling of Long Island LLC and the Village of Port Jefferson for the utilization of village-owned property at the Traders Cove parking lot for the purpose of storing waste removal equipment, and authorizing Mayor Shepro to sign the temporary license agreement. May I have a motion?
Motion?
Second?
All in favor?
Question on the motion?
Oh,
So,
sure.
what are the terms of this, of the agreement? There's nothing in the packet.
There is not. It hasn't been. It is a continuation of the previous agreement.
Okay,
Without change.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Good question.
Just for the board's edification, there was discussions back and forth with Winter Brothers whether or not they were going to pull their dumpster from the site up until about 4 or 5 days ago, where it was finally they were able to work out agreement with the people who used the dumpster. So there wasn't enough time to turn around the agreement, but the idea being it's going to be an extension of the original agreement. I just wanted, the timing of it all was literally down to the last minute. I just wanted to make sure the board was clear on that.
So this is a temporary extension while the final paperwork is being
Sure.
drafted?
Mhm.
Okay.
Sorry. Thought that was-
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution number 14, 32625, resolution approving tasks 2, 3, 4, and 5 on the attached professional service contract amendment submitted by GEI Consultants, Inc. for design development, contractor solicitation, construction monitoring, and coordination meetings related to Phase 2 of the East Beach Bluff Stabilization Project. May I have a motion?
Motion.
I'll second for discussion.
Okay.
Can I start discussion?
Yes, you asked to.
All right. Okay, so 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is, I'm aiming it towards the clerk and the treasurer.
With task 1 already having been approved
Right, task 1 has already been
last
approved.
month.
Correct,
And completed.
right. So we approve these. Things change. We're not obligating to pay this amount of money.
Is that who's that a
Question,
question for?
I don't,
I
I
think
guess
so,
Trustee
but
Stephen, I guess, or-
Treasurer Gafka, why don't you tell us how we encumber costs and
Can you repeat the question again, please?
So looking at, without going into detail, the task 2, 3, 4, and 5. The board, if the board approves it, something changes. It doesn't say we have to pay that money to them if they do not do the work.
That's correct, yes.
Next question is, if we do all these 2, 3, 4, and 5, are we incurring any additional, do we have the money set aside for this?
I would perform a budget amendment to make sure that this is funded with the current funds available.
But we don't have to borrow any additional money or anything to,
Correct.
to get those done?
The money was encumbered in April of 2024? Is that correct?
There is a previous GEI proposal that had money that was encumbered that will be transferred over for this purpose, yes. Thank you, Mayor.
Unused.
That was not used. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so we wouldn't be expending additional funds. Let me correct that. We have the funds available to pay it.
Yes.
Thank you.
The funds available, or are you going to be transferring out of something else to make the funds available?
I would be repurposing a purchase order, which is in and of itself a transfer. You get rid of one, you add another one, you move the appropriations over, but there will be no need to borrow money or anything like that to do this.
Can somebody walk us through now that we have Hayduck as our engineer of record? I think it might make the public more comfortable if we walk through the process that we've gone through to compare this particular proposal to the prior proposal and whether there was any overlap or duplication, which was originally my concern on that. So could we just walk through,
Actually,
Mayor,
it was.
I hear the trustee's question, but how much of this is going to be addressed tomorrow universally in a public meeting, like, for this very purpose?
Well,
I guess what I'm asking is,
this
can it
particular
wait
question
again?
is very easy to answer.
Okay.
Not complicated.
Sure.
Because actually, it had to be weeks ago that we had asked Hayduck to take a look at the proposal versus what GEI had done in the past, and to specifically determine whether or not there was any overlapping work to be done. And the answer was, after a very deep analysis, the answer was no. So this is all new work. Never once did they look at a stormwater drainage analysis, for example. Were they asked to or charged to? Never once did they do schematic design plans with opinion of probable cost and construction schedule for this project. And not once did they create construction plans with specifications, opinion of probable cost, and schedule for this particular project. So our engineer of record, the consulting engineer of record, took a deep dive into the whole thing, and the answer was no.
So if probable cost analysis was not done, how did prior boards decide to take out that $10 million ban if we didn't have a cost estimate of both phases? Is that?
I wasn't on the board when that happened, so I don't know.
And then, but even the FEMA grant that we have was designed to cover a projected 75% of the costs. So that projection has to have been done, correct? And I understand that I think most people were not here for that. Trustee Laps, do you have any recollection? Sorry to put it all on you, but. And then how did, the other thing too I struggle with, what did we submit to, at the time, Congressman Zeldin's office, so that his office could submit our request to the Appropriations Committee to get that FEMA grant.
That was a previous administration, Kyle, so not sure. Could be there in the records, but
In our sidebar at this table, we have a belief, but not really anything that we were willing to discuss in public without verification. So maybe a conversation with yourself, Trustee Hill, and the treasurer, once he can verify what he thinks he believes may be true. But to say it in public might be a bit irresponsible at this point.
I understand. And then I think you touched on this a little bit, Counselor. We'll be talking about the Bluff tomorrow at the Bluff meeting. Would it be wise for us to not vote on this stuff until after that meeting? But even if we're not voting tomorrow, the meeting is tomorrow, and I think village residents have a right to live their lives and not have to go to two meetings in a row, two nights in a row.
What I would suggest in that, Trustee Hill, is you have that discussion with your colleagues to see if they think it's appropriate. Whether I think it's appropriate or not, it's not really a legal question.
Sure.
It's more of what you guys believe is the proper order of things. So I'm going to yield to your colleagues on that because it's not really legal. It just would be just my opinion.
Right.
Non-legal opinion.
Right. I think the proper order of things would be to have the meeting and then vote on this.
Is it possible to just schedule for the board to converge just to vote on this after the Bluff meeting tomorrow? Like how would we do that?
I mean, procedurally, could it wait a month? I don't know. I'm not the engineer, but I don't know.
Does it have to wait a month? Can we?
I wouldn't vote it tomorrow. I see you over there waiting. Buy more batteries and I won't have to do that. I think we already made a commitment tonight that there would be no vote tomorrow. It would be an informational meeting. So to vote tomorrow, I wouldn't recommend that. Because I don't think there's anything pertaining to this. My opinion, again, non-legal opinion, is I don't think there's anything in that resolution that can't wait till the next work session to be voted on, because we do vote at work sessions occasionally. But that's not a.
Let me ask the question a different way.
Please.
So, can we table this and have the Bluff meeting first, and then if we need to vote because it is a time-sensitive matter, not because of the company itself, but because we have to execute a plan in order to retain the FEMA funds that are ostensibly earmarked for a future phase? Like, is there some sort of urgency to this, or can it wait till the next work session?
I didn't prepare it, and I didn't put it on the agenda, so that's, again, I don't have that answer because it's not my ballywick. Can you table it? Absolutely you can, but maybe the mayor or someone, the treasurer might have a better answer than, because it's not really a legal question. The answer is yes, you could table it, and whether or not it's urgent or not, I don't know. I'm not the engineer.
Yeah, it's actually unimportant whether it's urgent or not. It's more important, should we hear the public before we vote on this particular proposal? And so I guess that's my question.
And I'll give you the same answer.
Yeah.
Same answer I gave Trustee Hill.
All right.
That's a conversation for your colleagues, not me.
so-
This would just be my layman's opinion, non-legal.
I heard Trustee Giuliano's question, and if we approve this proposal, does that mean that the engineering firm jumps to life to get it done? No?
No.
If we approved the the 3-year commitment to the parking, and we decided to take it off the resolution as part of the resolution, would that mean that we would jump to change the rates? No. I think there's some common sense that's involved with this. And I think that we do have a meeting tomorrow night, a public forum, that we will be hearing from the public. The public will be hearing from the engineering firm. The public will be hearing from the treasurer about the financial history and planning for the Bluff project. The public will hear about any kind of legal aspects that are involved with the planning process. And the only reason why I would like to see this actually pass tonight, if the board has tolerance to pass this tonight, is so that if what they heard and what comes to fruition tomorrow night and information that's processed is something that seems reasonable. Plans don't get made into plans until the engineers put the work into it. So you can't put that cart before the horse. You can't say, well, what are the plans? And then pay for them to get done. You can't ask for the plans to be presented before you pay the engineers to create the plans. So, and you can't create the plans until you have the results from the studies that have been done and the research that has been done and the science that has been pulled in. So the science and the research is in progress because we approved task 1, which was the drone studies. And we actually incorporated the drone study of the upland portion in addition to the monitoring portion of the project. We included drone topography capture of information and data to analyze the upland portion that would impact phase 2. That was something we approved last month, and it was actually executed. So the engineering firm has data to be able to analyze, but there's also aspects of tasks 2, 3, and 4, mostly task 2, that will be conducted and researched and analyzed and reported on and then designed so that there are aspects of this project to reflect upon and think about. So, question is, do you let the cart lead the way? We won't get anything done. But that is to say, maybe this board, upon hearing, because there are 3 of us who haven't been in the meetings with the engineers, 2 of us have. Maybe what this board hears tomorrow night also will impact the move forward. But what I'm hearing from the public is, how can we even know what to think if we haven't seen the plans or we haven't seen the results? I don't know if you can engineer plans without paying an engineer to do so. Doesn't mean you have to act on the plans, but
I actually don't dispute that, right? I agree with you, Mayor, in that regard. And I think that task 2 is one that I don't have a problem with at all. Particularly because the design plans is just a revision to the existing plans, not starting over from scratch. I do feel rather strongly that they should have done the stormwater drainage analysis as part of the first plan, but that's history for you. So I'm okay with task 2. I think where we just heard from the public on this matter, I think what they have not heard, and Robert mentioned it earlier, is what were all the options that were on the table to look at. And if task 2 has to be completed before we can even have that discussion, or, let me ask it a different way, is that discussion part of tomorrow night, regardless of approving task 2?
And my understanding is that the erosion commission will be highlighting other, the pros and cons of different aspects that could be considered.
Okay.
Or would they be considered, asking if they would be considered. And they put some really significant thought into it, and I'm looking forward to hearing what they have to say.
So we're talking about 24 hours from now, we'll have more information than we have now.
The public might. Not sure you will, because
I won't have more information that reflects what information will be disclosed should task 2 move forward. I'm looking to understand what task 2 reveals to us in terms of planning for bluff stabilization.
But my point is, rather than tonight, if we want to wait till tomorrow night,
We won't vote. Either way, we can vote tonight, or we can vote on April 9th. If we vote tonight, and just trying to be efficient. If we vote tonight and we give the treasurer permission to move money, or, to sign the contract with GEI, that does not give them the authority to start the work.
And we already have the money, is that right, Treasurer? This is already covered.
We have money available to encumber for these tasks.
Okay, and let's be clear, because I just heard the comment down the other side of the trustee table. It is being moved from an account that was already encumbered for this purpose to a new account, which is also being encumbered for this purpose.
Whatever the board approves at such a time that they approve or do not approve a task, I will be able to create a purchase order and encumber the money for what's been approved in order to move the project forward.
So we're not, what is the actual financial recording that happens if we were to approve this right now? What happens in Edmonds, for example? That would be our financial system.
We have money available within the Bluff Project capital line that had been previously approved but unacted on, that was authorized, that I will be able to encumber to get this started.
Thank you.
Until
That was
such-
exactly the answer I wanted.
Right.
Okay. To understand, yes. All right, good.
Okay.
So we're not going to have any, so not all the trustees have been in the meetings with GEI. So the rest of us would learn probably more tomorrow night than what we know right now, I suspect. So it would be appropriate to table it for our own purposes. Well, I'm going to motion to table this.
What do you think about if we just do task 2? Would you be inclined to vote if we piecemealed it and just approved task 2 tonight, or?
If I may, trustee, again, for hearing what the board's saying, whether or not you piecemeal it or not, it's not happening by our work session date. They're not going to run out and start plans in the
Good
next
point.
7 days, 8 days,
Good
9 days. So to start piecemealing things. We could do this with literally every contract, what if this, what if that. It's just not the way we do things in government, right? So if the intent of the board is to wait on this, then that's the intent of the board, but to extrapolate one part out, what if tomorrow the decision or the public is like, we don't want to do anything else? So now you've encumbered that portion of, so what I'm hearing is that this was the logical next step in the plan. That should happen if the board decides to move forward with the project, but you can't move forward with the project without step 2. But guess what? If after step 2 there is no construction, there's no reason to supervise a construction, there's no reason to do the other 4 things. So it kind of all rolls together, so it's either table it or not, as opposed to piecemeal. Piecemeal is just going to add to confusion, in my opinion. And to take it one step further, a lot of times in municipal work, when a contractor gives a price, it's based on a totality of work. So what we think we might be paying for step 2 might have been considered if step 2 leads to step 3, 4, and 5, and we don't know that because the contractor's not here. You buy in bulk, you get a better deal. We know that, right? We don't know what that cost might be. It might go up if they're not planning on the rest of the work. So who knows? So to me, it's either yes or no as opposed to piecemeal for our vendor's perspective as well.
I think there's a motion on the table.
There is a motion on the table.
There's a motion on the table to table? Is that what we're
There's a
saying?
motion on the table to table.
Oh,
Trustee, I thought there was confusion
Yeah,
there.
was.
okay, yeah, I just thought we were going with the original motion.
Trustee
Trustee
Hill
Hill.
made a motion to table. We are waiting for a second.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
There is a second by Trustee Laux.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 4-0.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Could I just clarify the motion that, procedurally, we should carry it to another date? So could we table it to our work session date, for further discussion? Which
Yes.
is-
Can it not be put on, it can't be put on the agenda? Or can we put it there with the motion to take it off the table, right? Motion to take it off the
It's been
table.
tabled, so usually
yeah.
it's not, you don't want to leave it lingering, right? It's for scheduling purposes. And if at the work session, we want to move it, put it on the agenda at the next meeting, then that's what the vote will be, put it on the agenda.
We just need to put a stake in the ground and
Yeah.
on a calendar.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
But at the next work session or public meeting, someone could motion to take this off the table.
Sure.
Oh, you could vote it down, yeah.
You would just, if the motion's there, it's either going to pass or fail. So if the board's inclined to remove it from the agenda, then that'll be a different vote. Or you could just vote it down at that point.
A table is a table, which means you table it to a further date.
Correct.
So
You just have
should
Or
we-
not at all. You don't have to set a date.
Well, they need the motion.
That's your recommendation for us to
that's
set a date.
You should carry it to a date certain, yes.
Yeah,
that
but
is-
at any next meeting, any trustee can motion to take this off the table.
Of course, you could do
Yeah.
that right now, too. But it needs to be on the agenda to do that, and usually our agendas are set at the work session. So this should carry to the, should, but again, legally it should be,
I like it on the agenda. So can we just table it till the April 9th agenda?
Yes.
And
But
then if,
Been passed, right?
what's that?
We passed the resolution.
So do we have to
Or
do
we
a
passed the table,
resolution
the
to add a
resolution to table.
date to it now?
I think so.
Okay, shall we rewrite it?
Amending, is there a motion to amend the resolution to carry it, table the resolution and carry it to the April
9th.
9th meeting?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Nay.
Motion carries.
Resolution number 15, 32625, resolution tabling the approval of the professional services proposal for topographic surveys and annual monitoring reports submitted by GEI Consultants, Inc. for the 2025, 2026, and 2027 annual monitoring reports and corresponding required surveys in support of each annual monitoring report required by the New York State Department of State for the East Beach Bluff Tow Stabilization Project. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second. Question on the motion. With the discussions that we just had for the previous, should we put a date on this one when we're tabling it to?
Tabling until April 9th.
All in favor?
Was that a motion?
Yeah, we had a motion and we had a second.
Motion tabling until April 9th.
For Resolution
The-
15?
Yes, the approval of the
Okay.
professional services proposal for topographic surveys and annual monitoring reports submitted by GEI Consultants, Inc. for the 2025, 2026, and 2027 annual monitoring reports and corresponding required surveys in support of each annual monitoring report required by the New York State Department of State for the East Beach Bluff Tow Stabilization Project.
That's phase one. So we're responsible for monitoring for 5 years based on the plan that GEI presented. And we have approved the monitoring process for the second year. We received the monitoring report for the first year. We asked for a proposal for the following 3 years so that we're not having to do this year to year to year. So we received a proposal last minute today. We thought we would get it in time, and we had questions. So the result of that is that we are, the resolution was on the agenda, and we are proposing to table it so there's more time to consider the proposal. All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution number 16-32625, resolution awarding the contract for hazard mitigation planning as part of the Flood Reduction Studies Advanced Assistance Project Initiative to LK McLean Associates Engineering and Surveying, DPC, in the amount of $291,199.40 per the bid opening on January 15th, 2025. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Discussion. I just have a question for the treasurer. Can you tell us how we're covering that?
This project's part of a FEMA grant, an 80/20 FEMA grant. And I had performed I could pull up the date, but I had performed a previous budget amendment allocating the total amount of the project funds, which was just a little over $315,000, with a grant reimbursement expected to be around $300,000.
Okay, thank you. I just thought it was important that that be in the record for the public as well.
Yeah, this was an extensive RFP process, 7 responding bids. Our consulting engineers did an analysis on how those who responded to the bid, to the RFP, accommodated the different sections of the RFP, and 3 engineering firms rose to the top. And then there was a panel of evaluators who reviewed and sat through presentations by each 3 of the engineering firms, which were all amazing, actually. And it was a pretty difficult decision, but through that similar grading system that was prepared and presented by our engineering firm, those who participated in the presentations or sat through the presentations, which Trustee Giuliano and I sat through those presentations, given that Trustee Giuliano, Deputy Mayor, is the Commissioner of Public Works. It made sense for him to sit through those presentations. We'd love to invite all the trustees on these presentations. However, you can only have 2 trustees in a meeting at any given time where decisions are being made. So what I try to do is invite trustees whose commissions or liaisonships are closely associated with any associated project or presentation or meeting to participate in those meetings. And I work really hard to include the trustees in those particular meetings. And so in this one, it was Trustee Giuliano, who was also the deputy mayor. And so this panel of people who observed and sort of calculated the results of how each presenter presented resulted in L.K. McLean emerging as in a leadership position there. So, and looking forward to, well, given this board's outcome, the outcome of this vote, seeing that hazard mitigation, planning, and engineering process come to fruition. We've been waiting on it for a very long time. So this was a grant that was achieved by and approved through the prior administration. And our grant administrator and our treasurer and our engineering firm have all been very instrumental in bringing it to this point. And this is a very, very significant project. So looking forward to you all learning more about it.
Thank you, Mayor. I think it's important that sometimes the public sees a little bit of the sausage making behind the scenes. So appreciate that.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution 17-32625, resolution reappointing Chris Ryan as docent for the Drowned Meadow Cottage Museum with an allocated disbursement not to exceed $1,500 per grant year for services rendered, and authorizing Mayor Shepro to sign the independent contractor agreement between the Village of Port Jefferson and Chris Ryan. May I have a motion?
Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution number 18-32625, resolution reappointing Mark Sternberg as curator and historic contributor for the Drowned Meadow Cottage Museum with an allocated disbursement not to exceed $1,500 per grant year for services rendered, and authorizing Mayor Shepherd to sign the independent contractor agreement between the Village of Port Jefferson and Mark Sternberg. May I have a motion?
Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution number 19.
On that, I just want to encourage the public, if you've not gone to the Drowned Meadow Cottage Museum, you really should go.
Yeah.
It's one of the most special parts of the village and our country's history. So please get there if you have not gone before. And Chris and Mark do a fantastic job.
And to listen to them speak about it, they could go on for hours. I mean, the knowledge that they have about the cottage and everything that went along with the spy ring is unbelievable.
Agreed, 100%. And looking forward to the 250th anniversary of independence. So coming up in 2026. And this cottage museum will probably have a big role in how we celebrate in Port Jefferson. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Resolution number 19-32625, resolution approving the attached resolution adopting the retention and disposition schedule for New York Local Government Records, LGS-1, issued pursuant to Article 57-A of the Arts and Cultural Affairs Law and containing legal minimum retention periods for local government records. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution number 20-32625, resolution confirming an hourly wage rate of $30.94 per hour and a 40-hour work week for full-time civil service provisional senior code enforcement officer James Murdaco, effective retroactive to March 17th, 2025. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution number 21-32625, resolution approving the following. Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby ratifies an agreement with Civil Service Employees Association, Inc., Local 1000, AFSCME, AFL-CIO, resolving PERB, PERB, case number U-39650, the court officer grievance, and the bank run grievance. Be it further resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes Mayor Shepro to sign the agreement. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can I just make a comment on this? No? Okay.
You have a You have a statement, actually, Mayor.
I do.
Excuse me, you have a statement.
Permission granted?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Tonight, the board voted to ratify an agreement with the Code Enforcement Union that resolved pending litigation arising out of the village's decision to prohibit employees from carrying firearms in furtherance of their duties with the Village of Port Jefferson. While the village's decision to do so stands, representatives from the village and union worked cooperatively to find solutions to the union's concerns. We thank the representatives from both sides for their work and cooperation on mutually agreeable solutions to put this matter to rest.
Thank you. Resolution number 22-32625. Resolution amending resolution number 01-31225 as approved at the March 12th, 2025 Village Board of Trustees work session meeting to revise the hourly wage rate for Michael O'Mello, Jr. to $19 per hour. May I have a motion?
Motion here.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution number 23-32625. Resolution approving the hiring of Kayla Challenor as a part-time seasonal summer camp director at an hourly wage rate of $25 per hour, effective June 14th, 2025 through August 15th, 2025. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution number 24-32625. Resolution approving the hiring of Jennifer Araneo as a part-time seasonal summer camp director at an hourly wage rate of $25 per hour, effective June 14th, 2025 through August 15th, 2025. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution number 25-32625. Resolution approving the hiring of part-time seasonal outside services, rangers, starters, and pro shop employees at the Village of Port Jefferson Country Club per the attached list. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution number 26-32625. Resolution accepting the resignation of Emmanuel Koropakis from the Code Enforcement Department effective March 3rd, 2025. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Resolution number 27-32625. Resolution accepting the resignation of Matthew Davis from the Code Enforcement Department effective March 13th, 2025. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution number 28-32625. Resolution authorizing Treasurer Gafka to create a general fund revenue line item to be known as A8022 Fund Balance Equity during year. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution number 29-32625. Resolution authorizing Treasurer Gafka to perform attached budget amendment number 82, appropriating general fund balance in the amount of $39,000 from a Suffolk County grant collected in December 2022 due to the capital fund, and increasing appropriations for line item A, 9950.9 interfund transfer in the amount of $39,000. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution number 30-32625. Resolution authorizing Treasurer Gafka to perform attached budget amendment number 83, increasing anticipated revenues pursuant to the recently received and executed grant agreement for DASNY Project ID 6591, DPW Emergency Command Center expansion, by $450,000 via capital fund line item H3089, other governmental aid, and increasing appropriations for line item H8997.078, Emergency Command Center, in the amount of $450,000. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Question? Did that funding come in? Treasurer Gafka?
We have, the funding has not come in yet. We have filed for reimbursement and given to the state and DASNY all of the documents requested to begin that process.
Okay, I think we should plan for a celebration once that funding comes in. It's been outstanding since, what, for 5-6 years? Since the project was completed.
At minimum 3.5 years since the project was fully complete. 4 years, I think.
Keep
since
going.
the main part.
Keep going.
The project started in 2017, this
Yeah.
entire process.
All
It's
right.
been a long time.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution number 31, 32625, resolution authorizing Treasurer Gafka to perform attached budget transfer number 24, decreasing appropriations for general fund line item A, 7145.43, skating rink supplies maintenance in the amount of $10,000 and increasing appropriations for line item A, 7145.42, village center repairs maintenance HVAC in the amount of $10,000. May I have a motion?
Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution number 32, 32625, resolution approving the check register and warrants dated March 21st, 2025, as presented by Treasurer Gafka and as approved by Claims Auditor Goodwin. May I have a motion?
Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution number 33, 32625, resolution to enter into executive session at 8:16 PM to discuss a contract negotiation and the specific performance of a particular employee. May I have a motion?
Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And Clerk Perillo, just for the audience's awareness and for our audiovisual team, do we expect to vote on something when we come back?
It is not expected, Mayor.
Do you expect that we will come back up into this room to close out the meeting, or will we close it in the executive session location?
There being no vote, it will likely be closed in the executive session location.
All right, thank you.